Okay.
Hello and welcome to day 28 of our lockdown. It was, in fact, at exactly this time, 4 weeks ago, that our Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced that my days of sort of kicking football up and down the streets in the middle of the road were to be put on hold for a bit, and so we find ourselves here, and we invite you, and we're honoured to have you in our living room today.
Yes, good evening.
So how has your day been, Irma?
Very fruitful. Has been very successful in terms of doing all my little routine in the morning, and yes, looking ahead. I didn't realize it would be this long.
Hey, now we're sorry that we're a little bit late this evening, even later than usual, because we were on somebody else's video. A very good friend of mine, Andrew, just as participants watching the stuff, and it kind of overran a bit, as these things always do, don't they? Really? And we
Yeah.
thought, shall we do it just before? And we thought, oh no, it's going to be done ages
Yeah.
ago. Hello to the wonderful Rocker Kev. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's great to have you on board, and I hope that your
evening.
day was good.
Yeah.
So Kevin and I, we're spreadsheet geeks, and we've been looking at all these numbers and looking at the death numbers for coronavirus. Hello, Phil. Today's some good news is that the corona deaths, reported as of today, are about half of what they were on Saturday. Half. So that curve is flattening. We're not over and done yet. I mean, 2 days figures don't mean an entire revolution is taking place, but it's very, very, very good news indeed. But I'd like to kick off today with hello, Trevor. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to kick off today with some kind of quite sad news, in that there's this fella who sort of and hello, Dr. Mike. It's very good to have you on board. We're leading today with the news that sadly the guy who founded Radio Caroline, a fellow called Ronan O'Reilly, has died as of today with pneumonia. But we'll look back in a sort of happy way at his life. He was quite a character. He managed George Lazenby, who was the first James Bond, and as George Lazenby's manager, he told him, "Nah, this franchise won't take off." Good evening to you, Jeffrey. We're leading with the story, and Kevin, hello. Today's first bit of news is that the reason that I'm here for you today, I'm a sort of radio guy. There's a microphone up at the top of the picture and everything, because I was a kid. I grew up when I was about that tall once, listening to this pirate radio station, Radio Caroline, off the coast of Colchester, where both Michael and I used to live, and it was playing pop music at a time when the BBC, quite frankly, was rubbish. And this really lively kind of very charismatic Irishman called Ronan O'Reilly was the guy who dreamed up the idea of playing pop music during the day on the radio. And before that, the radio in the UK, it was pop music for about 10 minutes a week. I think there was a program called Jukebox Jury or something, where they'd play a couple of new records, and some crusty old people would decide whether it was going to be a hit or not. They were always wrong, hello, Paul, and today's news, which is a bit of a sad bit of news, you'll know of him as well. Ronan O'Reilly, the founder of Radio Caroline, sadly has died, and we're just having a quick look at his life to start today's thing. So Ronan O'Reilly was involved. His parents actually owned a shipyard in Southern Ireland, in a place called Grenore, but he came over to London. He was in the sort of Kings Road, Chelsea scene, and he was kind of very hip sort of guy. He was managing a few acts. I think he spent a little while managing the Stones. He came that close to managing the Beatles, and he certainly managed a fellow called Georgie Fame. And he realised that the radio stations here in England wouldn't play his records. And then there was a radio station called Radio Luxembourg, with an enormous transmitter from the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, beaming this music into the UK at night. So he went there to give them some tapes of his artists, and basically, because he wasn't with one of the big record companies, which back then were Decca and EMI, they showed him the door. So in order to promote his artist, he just had this idea: well, I'll get a suitcase full of cash. Paul says that he met Ronan once at Harwich, which is wonderful. Ronan was a lovely fella, so Ronan turns up with a big suitcase full of cash, because he was that kind of fella, and gave it to the owner of this ship, and they built this enormous mast on this boat, which was built in his parents' shipyard in Grenoble. There was a rival project going at the same time called Project Atlanta, and Project Atlanta had a slight head start on Radio Caroline, so it was neck and neck, and they were racing. But bear in mind, this was Ronan's parents' shipyard. So there were all these inexplicable delays with Project Atlanta. So it didn't quite go as fast as it should have done. And you know, the mast would disappear or something, or the anchor chain would get broken or whatever it was. So as it was, Caroline slipped out to sea first, and I think it was about another 2 weeks before the other station was ready. And as luck would have it, these two guys merged in the end, because what use was it having two stations side by side competing? So one of them sailed up to the north of England to become Radio Caroline North, just off the Isle of Man, and the other radio station became Radio Caroline South, just off the coast of Essex, where I was a young lad. And all the people who started Radio 1 on the BBC, all of those early names, Tony Blackburn and Dave Lee Travis and all those legendary people, the late Tommy Vance, with whom I started the radio station Total Rock, they all worked on Radio Caroline. And when Radio 1 started, there was this photo on the steps of All Souls Church, which is in the Langham, which is right opposite the BBC front door, and all the DJs of Radio 1 started there, and with one or two exceptions, the entire crew came from this groundbreaking radio station, Caroline. And I'd just like to leave you with a couple of words from another friend of mine, Peter Moore, who is the current boss of Caroline, where he's been the boss for about 20 or 30 years, a terribly long time. And he just writes a few words of tribute to this remarkable radio pioneer. He says, "In a pastime populated by unusual people, Ronan was more unusual than all of them combined. In a world where we all follow rules created by others and imposed on us, Ronan had no rules other than his own. He said he was in the business of why not?" Okay, and let's move on to some of today's other stuff going on. Our Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has hinted that it may be a while that you have to carry on watching us, because we have pledged, haven't we, to do this. Hello, Jake, another Colchester fella, and Cam FM stalwart. We led tonight. You just missed the news that the founder of Radio Caroline, which was a pirate station just off the coast of Colchester, which had come in so loudly that you could just receive it with a cucumber hung up on a washing line and just hold it to your ears, and it would play all this pop music. Sadly, he's died at the age of 79. But anyways, moving on. Moving forward with stuff, our Chancellor, thank you, Paul, thank you. Our Chancellor has hinted that the lockdown will go on a little bit longer than anticipated. I'm the king of geeks. I'm the geekiest, spreadsheety person out there that you'll ever meet. So I've been tracking these numbers, and the curve here in the UK is really flattening, and today Italy started to flatten for the first time as well, but we're doing very well on the flattening, because it seems like a lot of people are staying at home. Looking out of the windows here where we are in Cambridge, it's like one of those westerns where the guy comes into the deserted gold rush town, and there's this just this brush blowing along the street in the wind. You know the kind of movie, and it's really like we took a little tour, a 50-metre walk to our corner shop today, and we didn't see a soul. No. I did see there was one guy who parked uncomfortably close to me, almost 2 metres, with his bicycle. He's just fiddling around with the saddle, and he'd sort of come here, he parked next to me, fiddled around for a while, and then he went off that way. So he just specifically came to come and say hello, which under normal circumstances might have been nice, but it wasn't my sort of favourite kind of thing, if you like. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the world, and the first thing, what we kind of do in these is the first thing we do every day is we hit you with all the good news and all that sort of stuff, and then Irma comes in with all her wise stuff. You see, so kind of I'm the happy-go-lucky kind of fella, but the wisdom is right here, you know, and so well, Australia, and having a lockdown. And that's quite a big thing, and you know, you put on your hat with all the corks around it, which are apparently, do you know what those are for?
No.
They're to keep the flies out of your eyes, apparently.
Wow.
So you know, because flies just don't like being squished in between corks. And
get it.
so there we go. We should sort of try that here.
I thought it was sort of like a
one
memento
day.
for a wine.
So
Lovely.
we saw, didn't we? A few days ago, there was some bloke. There was a video of this bloke in Australia, being he was in the water, and suddenly there was an ever increasing number of policemen on the shore waiting
Yes.
to take him away, and he took his time coming in. He was kind of savouring the moment, but ultimately came aboard, and they were all kind of surrounding him at a safe 2 metre distance, but they led him off into the old Black Maria and carted him off, well, that's kind of easing up a bit now, in that your daily exercise that you're allowed to do in Australia and in most other lockdown countries, including here in the UK, is starting to extend to some of the famous beaches. Coogee, Clovelly, Maroubra and Malabar are now all accessible again to the public. So, fair dinkum, as we say, and we can get back on the beach. I don't think we're having barbies yet, but it's only a matter of time, and no doubt all the surfers will be practicing safer surfing. That's quite a tongue twister, isn't it? There and yeah, and so all interesting, developments.
I assume because it's a water sport, there's less likelihood of you getting infected or contaminated with a virus, I assume.
Quite possibly, although I don't know. I've no idea one way or the other. Now,
Perhaps
good old
maybe.
Captain Tom, up until today, Captain Jack was a song by Billy Joel, fabulous song by Billy Joel. Major Tom was another fabulous character pioneered by David Bowie in his song Space Oddity. But now we've got Captain Tom, and Captain Tom has eclipsed a lot of them, because up until this week, the oldest person in the UK singles chart to hit number one was Dame Vera Lynn at the age of, I think, 93, when We'll Meet Again. Her famous song from the Second World War went back in the charts. Well, as of this week, our new number one is Captain Tom Moore with his new version of that Jerry and the Pacemakers classic We'll Never Walk Alone, which I think they also sing on some of the terraces, don't they, at some of the grounds. Wow, this guy a month ago, Captain Who, and nowadays he's on the tip of everybody's tongue. We're all immensely grateful to the fabulous job he's done. I've no idea how much money he's raised for the NHS now.
Well, over 22 now, I think.
It was more than 26 last time I looked.
My
It just
God.
goes so, but more than 26. So the money is coming all the time. Keep that money coming in, because NHS are saving people's lives, and it's a small recognition of what they do. So go out and buy the record. Give some donations, and shall we all send him a birthday card, because it's his 100th birthday at the end of the month. The Queen should give him a knighthood. I will go on record as saying that, no doubt about it. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks notice and social distancing will prevent it, but it should happen sooner or later. I guess he'll get his telegram anyway, and he's going to get a Spitfire fly past as well, which is kind of nice to celebrate his 100th birthday, which is absolutely a wonderful thing. As long as we can get the permissions and things from Whitehall, then there's going to be a fly past by a Mark 9 Spitfire to commemorate his birthday, and a team of aircraft restorers are going to fly a tribute on April the 30th, which is his birthday, and they're going to fly over his home in Bedfordshire to celebrate his achievement, which is wonderful. It's nice when people come together to do good things, and then suddenly everybody joins in. Hello, Stuart. Hello, Scott, and hello, Jeanette. Welcome to our little soiree at home tonight in our living room.
And it's a great achievement, which brings me to this very first paragraph, or the excerpt from a poem Youth by Samuel Ullman, which is: youth is not a time of life, it is a state of mind. It is not a matter of rosy cheeks, red lips, and supple knees. It is a matter of the will, a quality of the imagination, a vigour of the emotions. It is the freshness of the deep springs of life. So his achievement is quite remarkable.
Oh yes.
Wow, 98, young at heart.
Wow.
getting the best done.
So it's never told. Even at my age, then I might achieve something with my life one day.
You never know.
It gives me hope. It gives me hope. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. Wildlife is reclaiming the streets, and which is a super thing, I think. And wow, Kevin tells me that Captain Tom has to date raised £27.2 million. Let's see if he makes it 28 by the end of the show.
Amazing.
I was writing some slides for a talk this afternoon. It was 26, so he's really captured
Yep.
the spirit. That's nearly 50p for every man, woman and child in the country.
And it's not only in the country; it's been worldwide. The donations come from everywhere. So that's an amazing achievement. So.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So wildlife reclaiming the streets. A grey wolf has been spotted in Normandy, and they don't usually come that far north. But with nobody around to bother them, our mammalian and other friends are going walkabout again, which I think is a wonderful thing.
That's brilliant. Yeah, there was another one. It's a photograph, I think, in Africa, in which they are keeping also the social distancing, and you can see that is it a herd of lions?
Oh yes,
all
yes.
laying on the road. Just
it's lovely. I remember probably about a decade ago, there was a TV show on, I think it was Sky. Trevor, we'll have a comment about that in a minute. Yeah. Sky, I think TV, had this TV show called Life Without People. And it was a sort of, 5-part dramatisation or something, little 30-minute chunks of what would happen if all the people in the world suddenly just disappeared, just like that. And then they show you that for example, in some places where they've got, coal-fired power stations where you have to shovel the coal in every day, we'd be out of electricity quite quickly, and then and then later on the nuclear power stations close down and this kind of thing, and the hydroelectric ones go on for ages, right until they run out of oil, lubricant or something. And so you gradually see the lights doing off like that, and then you see like trees popping up through the middle of the road and all this kind of thing. So we're almost seeing a situation like that. And I remember one of the things was the wildlife coming back, and you see kind of creatures that maybe today we only see them in zoos or whatever like that, roaming freely.
Yeah, there's a way of nature always gets their back in terms of you've seen so many ruins and it all being populated by lovely, wonderful nature and new habitats created by its own accord. So yeah, we live in a wonderful world, and this is a time to reset for Mother Nature and for ourselves.
Now, Trevor's asked about Virgin Airlines, and
Yes.
I remember reading Richard Branson's book about when he started that airline, and they had one aeroplane, and they had to have the FCA or FAA regulators come to test the plane to declare it airworthy, and then like 2 days before this inspector is due to come to inspect the plane, one of the engines fails. So he went to his friends at the bank and said, look guys, and by this time he had already got a record empire and loads of different businesses, and he goes, look guys, I just need £1 million to fix the engine. And do you know what the bank said?
Nope.
So this kind of upset him a bit, really, as it would, and so he had to really organise a whip round through all his friends in the music business to raise this money to get his engine, and so it's a real kind of labour of love for him. And then, sure enough, the money came, and that's when Branson decided that he would be independent of the banks, because the banks don't always understand what they're lending about, and they err on the side of caution. So if a banker had been running, Virgin Airways, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. It would have been, British Airways would have retained their monopoly. So we've got a situation now where the only people flying into the UK, as far as I know, are Romanian fruit pickers, because 6 charter planes with those guys flew into Stansted Airport, I gather, in the last week. But your tourists and your businessmen are not travelling. So, but airlines have still got to pay the staff bills, and they've still got to pay whatever the HP on the aeroplanes and all the other associated costs, and they have to pay for slots at airports and so on and so forth. So it's an expensive business, and if we're going to have people not flying for months and months and months, clearly there will be failures in that sector. We see low-cost airlines failing quite often. don't we? So you know, so Richard Branson went on record today as asking for, I think it was a £500 million government loan to keep Virgin going. And remember that Branson was involved in a positive way with Virgin Money, wasn't he, in helping out in the crash of 2007-8. In the credit crunch, and the government said no. So he has, I believe, offered now to put up his tropical island. Is it called Necker Island? He's offered to put that up as collateral. So it'll be interesting to see how that story develops. Hello, Adam. Welcome aboard. It's good to have a fellow radio man. I'll just fill you in at this point about something we were talking about earlier on this evening, which was the very sad death of Ronan O'Reilly, who was the founder of the pop pirate Radio Caroline, which brought all-day music to the UK for the first time ever. And when the government outlawed it after 3 or 4 years, they had no alternative but to bring in Radio 1 playing pop music, and then some years after that we got commercial radio, because Ronan O'Reilly created an appetite for pop music during the day that you couldn't just squish with legislation. You had to cater for that in some way, which was
It's a maverick of his time, I suppose.
Oh, very much so, because his grandfather, I think, was a fellow called the O'Reilly, who actually led the Irish uprising against the British in was it 1916 when they had a revolution. So he had a lot of history there. And I'm going to just read once more for those who've just joined us what Radio Caroline's station manager Peter Moore said about his late friend. He said, in a pastime populated by unusual people, Ronan was more unusual than all of them combined. In a world where we all follow rules created by others and imposed on us, Ronan had no rules other than his own. He said that he was in the business of why not. And that reminds me again of something that Kennedy said, isn't it? He said some people say, some people see things as they are and say, why? I see things as they could be and say, why not? And I think, the power of our mind is the thing that lifts us way above the clouds and inspires us to great heights and to do new things.
Right. Excellent.
So, okay, let's have another little thing of these. Here in the UK, we're preparing lots of trials and tests and this kind of thing. There's very positive news coming out of Oxford. Yes. That fella, Andrew Marr, yesterday on BBC One, giving a plug to the old Beeb there, he was interviewing the lady in Oxford, who is in charge of their flagship research project, which is trying to design a vaccine which will give some degree of immunity from this virus. Because if you catch it, there's not much immunity, and you're likely to catch it again. But the old viruses, the old vaccines that they're making, will try to get 2 or 3 years of immunity from the one shot in the arm, which is pretty good because I always faint when I get those. Mm-hmm. So you won't have to do that too often. But anyway, the lady in charge of this project said yesterday that she thinks there's an 80% chance that this will work, this vaccine, because kind of really the only way you test these vaccines, because that's something I was asking Dr. Mike on Saturday when we were talking. The only way you test these vaccines really is by inoculating people, and then you have to sort of let them out into the wider community to see if they catch it, and some people have got a placebo or something else. So fingers crossed on that one, and it does seem a bit optimistic, but what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and get the manufacturing of the scaling up being prepared at the same time as the last lot of clinical trials are going on. So, fingers crossed on that one. But they were talking about the possibility, and it's only a possibility, that we might have as many as 1 million vaccines against coronavirus by September of this year. This is optimistic, but you never know.
Yeah, well, let's hope so that we get it done. Another good news is the Inland Revenue now is started to receive applications about the furlough scheme. So
terrific.
Good news for employers and employees.
Absolutely
getting their money.
Absolutely so. Yeah. So now there's a music teacher in Hong Kong who has filled 3 trucks full of pianos, as you do if you're a music teacher in Hong Kong. And he's going to, these are going to be used so that music teachers can drive to meet students for lessons. And I'm wondering what kind of piano, whether it's just a sort of little electric piano on one of those stands that look like an ironing board, or whether it's a baby grand. You know, the details are not revealed here. But that's very enterprising. I mean, obviously for a trumpet player, it's pretty easy. But for somebody teaching piano, it ain't that easy.
Nope.
Yeah. So and then more animals, more animals that hide away very often when kind of we're around. Oh, and hello, Chrissy. Thank you for joining us this evening. A lot of our friends in nature hide away around because we're noisy. We have all these barbecues and we leave a lot of litter and stuff. So they kind of do the prudent thing. But leatherback turtles are quite a rare species, and they can be found in Thailand. But as the tourists have gone into lockdown and they're sort of hiding in their hotel rooms or whatever, more and more of these rare leatherback turtles have been building nests on the beach. In fact, at the beginning of this month, the Phang Nga National Park there came across 84 hatchlings on the beach, which is terrific. So nature is refreshing itself and repopulating itself while we are all having a little bit of a rest. And that would be something nice for I mean, I'm sure that would immensely please David Attenborough, who's got a new film coming out. Watch it, because it's really good. It's like his swan song, his statement about, you know, the planet and us and what we ought to be doing and what will happen if we don't.
He's had an amazing life as well. David Attenborough.
And
it's one of my favourites.
Where people were really rigorous with the old lockdowns, and where the governments got in early and locked down, and where the people adhered to them, either because they are people who are in awe of government or because the government sort of welded them in blocks of flats, whatever. But small shops, bookshops and garages have reopened in Germany, and 73 outdoor tourists sites have opened in Beijing. So you know, things are opening up slowly. So you know, all the people who talk about doom and gloom, tell them to burger off, okay? Cal, our very good friend Cal has joined us. How lovely to see you.
Hello,
We're delighted to have you on board. Honestly, it's lovely to have you on board. Welcome to our living room. Look at all the books. So now Kevin tells me that Branson is coming back to Richard Branson and his request to have his airline bailed out. Richard Branson is apparently the UK's 7th richest person with an estimated fortune of 4.7 billion. And he has lived on the British Virgin Islands for the last 14 years without paying a lot of tax. He bought the island for $180,000 in the 1970s and now rents it out to 30 guests at a time at $77,500 a day. Necker Island apparently is currently valued at around $10 million. And didn't they have some kind of hurricane there? Was it Hurricane Irma?
Yes, I think
It was
so.
one of those.
But he had a fire, I think.
Oh, was there a fire?
Yeah, destroyed it.
There was something that
But I
destroyed
really
his house,
wasn't sure.
and he had to hide underground. And I think it might have been to do with some kind of weather condition. Not entirely sure on that one, but yeah, whoa. So yeah. Now,
Thank you for that info.
yeah, indeed. We're all going on a summer holiday. Bit of Cliff Richard there. Do you think
To the garden.
Do you think I'll get signed by a record label to do that?
No.
My Cliff Richard tribute act. Even if I take the beard off, could I get there?
Nope.
Damn. Well, in that case, we'll have to stick with this. And the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, is optimistic, over-optimistic, I would say, that summer holidays are going to be able to go ahead this year, but only if we're all in big plastic bubbles. I mean, no, ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And Children's Commission, we're not going to open the schools in May, okay? Because even if you do, we're not sending our kids. It's dangerous. So just to be clear. And you know, so I think, well, I mean, we'll be going out a bit more than we are at the moment, and the weather will be nice and all that kind of thing. But and my friend Ferry, Ferry Mart, who's a Dutch radio personality. He lives in this small island called Bonaire, where I think they've got one suspected case of COVID at the moment. And to celebrate or in honour of that or whatever, he climbed on the roof of his house. He's sitting there on the roof with his laptop on his knee, watching the because from where he lives you can see the airport. I guess it's probably a pretty small place. You can probably see the airport from everywhere on that island. I don't know. But there he was, and he got a friend to take a photo of him sitting cross-legged on the roof with his little sort of laptop watching the planes come in, or probably the plane, because I shouldn't think they have many flights in and out of there at the moment.
If they're small. Mm-hmm.
Indeed. The BBC, God bless them, are going to launch a 14-week lockdown learning scheme for children who are not going to school, and they're going to have the likes, supply teachers are going to be people like the aforementioned David Attenborough. I mean, how cool is that? He's far too cool for school. Jodie Whittaker, that lady who wasn't my favourite Doctor Who of all time, he's also going to be taking part. But, there's good and there's bad, okay? The Man City footballer Sergio Aguero is going to help children to count in Spanish. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. I can't do any more than that.
Yeah.
Cinque. Ed Balls, the former Chancellor, is going to deliver a maths class for 11 to 14-year-olds. Thank goodness it's not Diane Abbott. Now, I didn't say that. Well. Now, there's a group called You Donate and We Deliver. And this started off with 4 friends who were making chicken soup for a few of their friends working in the NHS, to delivering 1,200 meals a day with a network of 50 delivery drivers. It's wonderful how things can scale up in these difficult times very quickly. Like that online concert with the Stones and all those people in it.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Whoa.
Absolutely brilliant.
And Elton and McCartney, it was like a rerun of Live Aid. But I don't think the Stones were in Live Aid, but Macca was, I think, pretty sure. And Stevie Wonder certainly was, and Annie Lennox and all those folks that I remember. Yeah. And a lot of folks who are too new that I'd never heard of.
I think it's a great opportunity to really show your talents to the world, and they come from your own home, and real talents. And one of my friends in Mexico, he likes poetry, and he's a journalist as well. So what he's doing is telling children's stories for children to look at before they go to bed as well. So I think Dolly Parton is also doing it.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
How lovely. Now, how do you pronounce this?
Which one?
Javier.
Javier Guizar Alvarez.
A very good evening to you. Hola. It's good to have you on board. Now, Cal, very rightly and very wisely, and thank you, says, tell them to burger off. Just turned on the laptop and there you were. We're really honoured. Hope you're fighting fit. We're kind of fit, but we're not fighting anymore because we're stuck in the house all the time now, so you can't.
Big job hugs, see you too.
And it's lovely to join you, she says, and she's sending us virtual hugs, which we would like to return to you right now. That is so nice. We're doing this every day. We're inviting people into our homes at a time when we sort of can't go out partying and moseying about and, knocking on the door of the neighbours and scaring them, as we normally do. They go, oh, the Herman monsters come to the door. Then in Wales, some support workers have created a replica McDonald's drive-through to help people with autism to maintain a sense of normality and structure. And they handmade their uniforms, and they got some packaging from a local McDonald's, and it's just to sort of make people think that the world's going on as before. That's very nice. Isn't that nice?
That's very good. Yeah, because I think they there's one of the hormones, oxytocin, people with autism, which is the empathy kind of hormone, which you connect a little bit. So that's fantastic what they do. Super intelligent.
Absolutely. And then we've got a footballer. I don't know much about footballers, but apparently there's a guy called Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's a very posh name for a footballer, isn't it? And he's he plays for Everton, and he's making friends here with a kid in some kind of in a thing called Blue Family. So it's like, I suppose, the Edmonton Supporters Club, that would be, where the players are sort of hunkering down with all the fans and reaching out to them and chatting to them online, all that kind of thing. So that's cool. It's nice, and there's a picture here in black and white. This one is in the Daily Telegraph of, you probably won't be able to see it all that well, but this is somebody walking on the beach with their dog, and it's just them, and it almost looks like they're walking across the Antarctic ice looking for Captain Scott, but actually it's a beach. Kevin's got a nice beach actually up in his neck of the woods. I missed that beach. I haven't been there for a very long time, and we were planning to go this summer. It'll probably be next summer now, for which I apologise.
We had so many plans. We had
I know.
even some fabulous news, but never mind. Next year.
Well, yeah, there's always next year, and there's always scope for sort of putting a good.
We need to keep on keeping on.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, we do. So yeah, pets. The homeless shelters. We've got one here in Cambridge at a place called Wood Green Animal Shelter, and there's a place called Blue Cross, and the animal shelters are currently emptying of pets because people are adopting them,
Oh, that's awesome.
which is very nice, you know, because people who are staying at home are getting companionship in that way, and it's good for the pets too. So and it's good for the pet food manufacturers and everything.
Yes, so we'd like to get a cat.
Yeah, we had one, didn't we?
Yes, we
For a
did.
while.
Skelly. Where's he gone?
And the cat we were babysitting was last seen on the roof of our friend Fiona, who lives in an extremely tall house. It's like on the roof of a 2-story house or whatever.
Yeah.
And poor hubby Aaron has to go up on a step ladder to get the kitten down.
Yeah, but that was the easy bit. The very
That was the
first
easy
time,
bit.
Yes, the first time he went to the very, very tall pine tree, right at the very top. It was sitting on a hedge. So they really struggled
Wow.
to get it down. So
And he's only
he likes his heights.
He's only 6 months old, and I remember kind of like the first thing I saw of him was a photo on Facebook of little Skelly at the top of their quite big Christmas tree, sticking his head out. So kind of
So, yes, an intrepid cat.
I was never an intrepid cat. I was a very kind of scaredy boy, and I was about 2 years old, I think, before I started walking. I started talking when I was about 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, that's a similarity because I also didn't. I mean, I was a late walker.
Yeah.
And that's because I saw someone else walking in front of me, and I thought, hang on a second, I can do that.
Hey, and I thought, well, you know, they want to do that. I'll let them get on with it. I'll just chill.
Excellent, excellent.
The mighty power of what we were just doing.
Small talk.
That's it.
Well, you're a very good coach of that.
I try. And so, so fostering. What have you put in that tea?
Yeah,
My
well,
goodness
I don't
me,
know.
blistering barnacles.
Yeah. We were slightly late. Oh, what's...
Oh, Cal has learnt something that I didn't know, which is wonderful. It says, be notified when David next goes live. There's a button, apparently, and so that is absolutely lovely. Cal rather optimistically says, I'll join you tomorrow on time, but for us, time is a sort of flexible thing. We promised our friend Paul from Colchester that we'd go on every day at about 7, and we came on today at 8:30, so it's a bit flexible. We'll try and rein it in a bit. Our
tomorrow's
excesses.
going to be Tuesday, so it's going to be about 7...
It'll have to be about 7
o'clock.
tomorrow
7 to
because
7:45.
then at 8 tomorrow, I hope that you're also going to join us for the Rock Show 97.2,
8 to
which
10
is
come,
a
yeah.
super thing.
Yeah, but today we were late because we were supporting a friend. I think at this time in which we are virtual networking, we need to support each other. If you have a
Absolutely.
business, a small business, networking event,
And
you have to support.
Our friend's networking event was 10 minutes late, and all these people were going, it should be called the late event, and because it was called the great event. You know, they were being very unkind,
Yeah.
frankly. But then it came up on a different link to the one it was supposed to be on.
Yeah.
So Irma had it, and I'm still there with the 50 people on the official page where it's supposed to be, so we had to post like links then.
Yes, it was hilarious. Yeah, but that's why we were late. We were supporting another of our friends, and I think we should all do that. If you happen to have a business or a friend running a business that you can still be run, I mean, just help them, back them
Yeah.
up. Do your little
Yeah.
bit for your friends at this time in which we need the most.
London's Nightingale Hospital, Kevin tells me, has discharged its first patients.
Oh.
Yay!
So we're getting there, we're
that
getting
is
there.
that is absolutely fantastic news. Simon Chung and another unnamed man. Well, no, it's Simon Chung. See, that's not Kevin's thing, but that's the newspaper's thing, because it was Simon Chung was a named man. So strictly speaking, the newspaper got it wrong. Yay! Simon Chung and an unnamed man were applauded by staff as they left the hospital at the Excel Centre in Newham on Sunday afternoon. Yay!
Yeah, hopefully we're gonna get through this one very quickly. I can't wait to be out there.
That is absolutely superb,
Having
superb.
picnics. Oh,
Oh,
delicious.
I remember picnics. There was one of those 1950s song going, remember, walking in the sand. Now I know what it means. Because all that stuff that we used to take for granted, the annoying people going up and down the street and all that kind of thing and running me over with their bicycles or me running them over with mine and all that, but now you yearn for those days. You yearn for being sworn at by car drivers going, you bloody idiot on your bicycle, you could have been killed. But
Yeah.
no chance of that anymore now. And even if I was now, I wouldn't go in A&E because it's dangerous in there. So anyways, some of the DIY chains are kind of slowly opening up. I think we mentioned that last night as well, actually. Oh, Michael, hello. Oh, and Cal says, rock on. Cal, you're my kind of person. You really are.
Oh yes.
And so yes, I read, I think it was yesterday, that a few of the DIY stores are going to be opening. So Irma goes, oh great, I'll go and get a blah blah blah. I can't remember what it was, but then we looked on Google, and sure enough, that the local store said open because Google doesn't update that kind of thing very often. And then we went on to, I think it was Metro magazine or something, due to the power of Google, and it turns out that our nearest one is about 200 miles away. So there we are. Those shelves will have to wait for another day.
Yeah, but actually you had a good reason as to why, because if you cut yourself and things like that on DIY, the last place you want to be is an A&E for a cut, because then you might be exposing yourself to the virus. So
that is possible.
There's some
Notwithstanding
wisdom
the
in
fact,
these heads from time to time.
notwithstanding the fact that A, as Dr. Mike told us on Saturday, and B, as we saw on the 6 o'clock news on the BBC today, like the hospitals are being very careful now to have hot and cold zones, and the hospital we saw today, I think it was in Lanarkshire, I'm not sure 100%, they were using the two. They'd set up like two buildings within the building, and they were using two separate entrances. Anybody with a cough is going in that one. Anybody with a leg hanging off is going in that one, and so forth. Well,
That's what I need to put up with every time. I think in pictures, and every time it comes with something and it's graphically described to me, it just pictures it. So, so I have lots of fun on that one. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a dancing panda on a balcony?
A dancing
panda on a balcony.
Panda?
Presumably, if we clicked that, it would play. But that is a panda on a balcony. Obviously, it's a person in a panda costume. It's not like a real. It's not something that they've nicked from the zoo. But it's just a nice. It's just a nice. The kinds of things that people do either to prevent themselves going all doolally, or because they've already just flipped. I'm not quite sure.
Well,
I'll just go and put on that panda costume and dance on the balcony, dear.
Well, we all have to find our own ways to keep ourselves amused and entertained. Yesterday was my bad day. I picked up, so this morning I started again. In the morning, meditation, affirmations, you name it. Read a book, 2 books. I'm reading 2 books a week. That's my goal. But also taking it very easy. If I don't finish the books, that's fine. So we all do our bits to keep ourselves amused and entertained and make the best of being indoors.
Do you know, we were planning to do some videos for absolutely ages, weren't we? It was that thing about, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And we were saying, we'll start this soon. And then when this happened, we really got it all together, and we worked out all that equipment we've got, and which buttons to press and all that kind of stuff, and how to make it all work. And then I tricked you, didn't I, into doing the first one?
Yes, you did trick me.
But we're kind of enjoying it now, aren't we?
Yes, well, I am. Yes, introvert and extrovert. I'm in between, but I need to be in the zone. So, but this time David kind of got me out of my comfort zone, and here I am.
It's okay. Look, this or a trip to the dentist, you choose. Especially
yes.
at the moment.
Oh yes.
We just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, here's some economics news, courtesy of my friend Kevin. The price of American oil has turned negative for the first time ever. So oil producers have to pay the buyers to take the barrels away. That's just insane. I'll do it for nothing.
3 weeks now.
And storage capacity could run out in May because, all these cars are sort of parked outside people's houses.
It's
going rusty.
I'm still there.
And our bikes are parked outside as well. So that doesn't have much to do with oil consumption. So oil firms are now renting oil tankers to store all the excess stuff. and the price of US oil is crude. That is not. I bet we can't go down to the petrol station and say, look, give us a fiver and fill her up.
Nope.
We could try.
do.
But yeah, but so anyways, the price of what we call a barrel of West Texas Intermediate WTI. That's such a sort of city kind of type expression. The WTI on the Dow is the it's the benchmark for US oil apparently, and it's now minus $37.63 a barrel. Well, a ton of them. But the trouble is, I could take them off their hands, but then where would I put them? And then we'd have nothing else. They wouldn't be able to sunbathe. Hello, hello! It's a very good friend Niall, who the king of the videos and production and stuff. And whoa, very good to have you join us this evening. That's absolutely fabulous. Salik has joined us as well. So we're just looning around in the living room.
Yep.
That's a good way to describe it, isn't it? So. And yeah, what have you got for
another
Monday?
Another thought about this is 1, 2, 3, the fourth, the third paragraph of the excerpt, the same poem, in terms of so years may wrinkle the skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. Worry, fear, self-distrust bow the heart and turns the spirit back to dust.
Oh la la la.
Yes, you know, Captain Tom Murray, it just gives me. Just be thinking.
Yeah.
You're never too old. Keep young.
That is powerful stuff. Now, there's a woman in Iowa, not called Sioux City Sue, because that was a song. I met a girl in Iowa. Her eyes were big and blue. I asked her what her name was. She said Sioux City Sue. But anyway, this is another Iowa woman, and she has really wanted to get masks to people during the pandemic, so she's made hundreds of them at home. And one of her hospitals put out a call. One of her local hospitals put out a call for donations, and so she got stuck in, and now she's making hundreds of them. So a real little kind of cottage industry going on there. And we have a friend who does homemade ones as well.
Yeah, opportunity.
So yes. Now here's an interesting thing. Mambo, he's an 8-year-old mini donkey from North Carolina. Yeah, he's just, I'm not quite sure what he's doing there, but he's just cheering us up.
For the photo.
He's just cheering us up during coronavirus. And I think I've seen some of these near Cambridge as well, where they're not quite as tall as the ones in the field next to them. But they might have been babies. Foals are they called?
Yeah, no, they're not too tall. Yeah, they're mini donkeys.
And so yeah, I'm not quite sure what that's got to do with COVID-19, but nonetheless. Oh la 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 la! Do you know what a cherry picker is?
Yes, I know what a cherry picker is.
What's a cherry picker?
It's a big machine that you raise up to the height to cherry pick something. I mean, to reach out. So you can control it from the bottom or from the same platform, and takes you all the way up.
Wow, I thought it was somebody who comes here on a chartered aeroplane to pick cherries.
Nope.
Okay. And so, anyways, this is a bit extreme, but anyway, so there's an 88-year-old man who wanted to visit his wife in a nursing home during the crisis, and his friendly local fire crew stuck him on this cherry picker thing and lifted him right up to the sort of 3rd or 4th floor. Outside the window, and he hasn't been able to see her since March the 14th, which was my late mother's birthday, actually. And what an amazing thing! And he was really quite sad at their kind of separation, so he had developed a routine of going there to see his beloved. So they lifted him up.
Amazing stories
on this extraordinary thing. I mean, I'm showing you all these pictures today. This one is courtesy of the website Yahoo. I don't know if you can see that there. So yeah, there's the fella outside the window talking to his missus. Isn't that lovely? That's lovely. I would do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that nice?
Me too. My little drop of joy. Make happiness your flow of life by doing more of what you enjoy and do what you enjoy more often. So that's what he's doing, keeping himself joyful.
But that is absolutely what it's about here, because we haven't got a boss Well, I have, but other people haven't got a boss like at work, looking over their shoulders. You don't do that. You're too slow, and I've got targets and all that kind of thing. So we can kind of chill a bit. We can discover our humanity a bit more.
Yes, and what is important to us. We have, I think all of us are resetting and feeling a bit unsettled, and we feel the loss of what life was like before the lockdown. And now we are all looking forward, hopefully, to come out the other side with a more positive enthusiasm for life, and with huge necessity of really connect deeply and truthfully to other people, to our friends, to our family, because this is just a time for reflection and to reset and rejoice in the joys of life, what it really matters.
Yeah. So this fella in the cherry picker, coming back to that, it wasn't the fireman that helped him out.
No, it wasn't.
It was a builder friend of his son who happened to have one of those.
Sweet.
Which is ever so nice. That's ever
How
so nice.
sweet, how sweet.
So there we are.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
It would appear so, yeah. Oh, and this is a lovely story.
Okay,
this
on.
is them,
Share it.
Well, getting married. This is them getting married. The husband and wife. I guess that's them getting married.
Yes.
So and so that there they are in kind of happier times. But what a wonderful thing to be sort of so devoted to one another. You go 30 meters up on the air, and this I wouldn't. I'd go 20, but 30 meters up in the air to well, I'm not sure if it was 30 meters up in the air, but to visit your beloved. 30 feet, okay. Yeah, I'd do 30 feet. 30 meters, not sure.
Oh.
30 feet, yeah, I could jump from there.
I might just pass on that.
I could jump from there if the A&E was open anyway. But
I have a slight fear of heights. You know when they're too high? Yeah. One point we were on holiday, and my son and me, as soon as we just looked out the balcony, we thought, nope, can we please move us down? And they did. So, height and me, not alone.
When I moved here, we had the builders in doing some work. Oh, love's young dream, says Cal. That's so sweet, isn't it? Yeah, when I moved here, and that was before I knew Irma, and we were having some work done on the roof, which was a bit crappy at the time, and all the scaffolding was there. I said to the builders, "Can I come up there?" And they let me stand on the apex of the roof. It was a great old thing.
My God!
Right up there.
They obviously didn't know you well.
Well, I don't know.
You're a danger to yourself sometimes.
I enjoyed myself immensely. Well, there wasn't too far to fall because there was scaffolding all around, and scaffolding poles and bits of wood and stuff like that.
David.
So it was okay.
Okay. No comment.
Better than a theme park.
It's
I mean,
still
come
here,
on.
which is
Better than a
good.
theme park. I had to wear. They made me wear a hard hat and some boots.
Okay. Sometimes I'm surprised. I wonder. Never mind. So, are we prepping to return to our best self? What plans do you have after this lockdown?
Oh, what are we going to do? That's a good question. I think my life will be different permanently. And they did a poll, and I promised to dig that up for today. I'll dig it up for tomorrow. Remind me, hold me to that. Where only 9% of Brits said that they want things to return to the way they were when all this ends. So our society might have a bit of a problem.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We are working from home. Even ourselves, that we work for, I mean, we're our own bosses. Our way of life has changed completely dramatically. We had planned so many trips, so many stuff going on, and events, etc., etc. So now we've changed our way of working and our way of living. So nothing is going to be the same, definitely. So I just hope we all keep our heads over our shoulders and don't lose social responsibility for each other as a unit in terms of race. But it's not going to be the same. Everything. So we all have to think of alternative ways. Take a stock now and ways of moving on with what we can do. Just figure the worst scenario and just make the best of it, and just what do we have, what can we do, how are we going to get through as a unit again.
So Carl suggests that you should learn to parachute.
Well, actually, it has been in my head, to be honest, Carl, but just the fear of heights.
Yeah,
But
if we get me a walkie-talkie and I'll talk to you from the ground. I'll say 1, 2, 3, go! Come on! I can be your manager from the ground.
Well,
but don't land on me.
oh, come on. Well, I might try that once we get through that. That's going to be my challenge. So we all need to think about challenges. If that's allowed, it's something that I will look to do.
Yeah. So Kevin has got some more information for us. Thank you for your terrifically helpful stuff this evening, Kevin. Kevin helps me on the Rock Show as well with lots of stuff I don't know about this 14 weeks of curriculum based learning that the BBC is offering for kids stuck at home. It reminds me a bit of the I was going to say the Flying Doctors, but that was a soap opera, a bit like Neighbours, only not quite as Shakespearean from back in the day. But the kids in Australia in the outback used to have little radios at home where they would just talk to the teacher. What's 2 + 3? 4. Out. 5. Sorry, Roger. But so this BBC project's quite inspiring, really. And we've got a footballer teaching youngsters to count in Spanish. Dave Attenborough looking at, I hope he doesn't mind me calling him that, Sir David, looking at geography like oceans and mapping the world, and Ed Bowles delivering a maths class. Brian Cox teaching science subjects such as force, may the force be with you, the solar system and gravity, and an EastEnders actor called Danny Dyer giving a history class for 5 to 7-year-olds on Henry VIII. So, school can be fun. Yeah. Why isn't it always fun?
It because it's too archaic the way of teaching nowadays. I think now that needs to be adapted as well.
Yeah.
We need to change the education for our children. More
Absolutely.
common sense than rigorous teaching.
You've got a lot of wisdom here.
Oh,
I'm going to
yeah.
share some of it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Right. So, just prepping to return to your own, the best self. Looking for venues to plan a retreat. Well, I'm planning to go for a retreat after this somehow. I like to get pampered and everything else. So if that is available, that will be one of my first things to do. I need to introduce the new me to my new friends and old friends, because we are going to end up being completely different kind of, the same values, etc., but it's completely different. We are going to be hugely changed. So, yeah, I consider the impact that we have on those around us. I will have to learn to explain my goals and achievement to others, and manage any unhelpful behavior that I might have. Do I have any unhelpful behavior, David?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Do I have one?
No.
Okay, I'm perfect.
Absolutely so. Absolutely. There's only one room. There's only room in a relationship for one imperfect person, because 2 imperfect people wouldn't work at all.
No.
And the perfect person has to be sort of super tolerant of the imperfect one.
Right, and that's it.
That's it. We haven't got a thought for the day.
Well, yeah, everyday happiness. I like my new books. Okay, basically talking about massage. Nourishing yourself in a way that helps you blossom in the direction you want to go is attainable, and you are worth the effort. Deborah Day.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. And when I saw the opposite page that said massage, I thought of, being a bit of a contrarian, I thought of that song by Sting, Message in a Bottle. I thought, massage in a bottle, which is it's a bit quirky.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking beyond that to, was it cod liver oil, which we bought some from that health food shop. Was it cod liver oil? Which oil
castor oil.
Castor oil. Oh, they're all the same to me. Whatever. But anyway, so castor oil. Okay, so don't do with castor oil what you could do with cod liver oil. But anyway, the castor oil, which as a kid you had to take a spoonful of this and go, and because of health and safety and all that crap and all the legislation and stuff, they're only allowed to sell it now as massage oil. Yeah. When you look on in the shop, I said to the people, "Well, can you take it or can't you?" And they said, "Oh, you'll have to ring the manufacturer." And you ring the manufacturer and they say, "Well, no, we can't possibly recommend it." But then they're quite clever, because on the website then they say, "This is exactly the formulation that we used to sell before for taking for kids to torture them with a tablespoon of this." But now we only sell it for massage oil. So presumably some regulator said, "You can't possibly sell this for that." So they say, "Okay, we won't." But so they carry on selling the same product with a different label. Now, Trevor Unit says, do you think Labour could do a better job than the Conservatives during this crisis? Let me put it this way. It would be hard to do a worse job, but I don't know they could do a better job.
No.
The Conservatives haven't done very well. They've set the bar quite low, and now, in fact, it was the editor of the magazine The Lancet who was telling them off because they were told off in the Sunday Times for faffing about and being too slow with things. And remember, the Sunday Times is a Tory paper. And they got a right slap on the wrist for being very slow off the mark with this. And, you know, where are all these promised things? Where are these 100,000 tests a day? Where, in particular, is this protective stuff, which has three initials that I've just forgotten? EPC, that's no Energy Performance Certificate, whatever it's called, the protective kit for our doctors and all that kind of thing. So they haven't been doing very well. You know, it might be good for the two parties to sort of bury their usual blah 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 over the dispatch box and cooperate a bit. So so you know, and Labour's got a new leader now, so you know, give everybody a fair crack at it maybe, but. I don't care who's doing it, as long as somebody does something. And I do think that, you know, we put people in Parliament not just to have, you know, lunches on expenses. That, when I'm talking about people of all parties, we pay them and we vote for them to get stuff done. And there's a lot of spin coming at the moment from politicians about all this, when what we need is action. We need those masks from Turkey and all this kind of thing. We need to protect our doctors. We need to protect our elderly. The lockdown was a good thing, and we cannot knock that, because that has so totally flattened the curves. Before that lockdown, the numbers of people dying was doubling about every 3 days. So, you know, 40,000 people, 80,000 people, 120,000 people, and this is 3 weeks ago. So we would be into the hundreds of thousands of deaths now if we hadn't all stayed at home and got a bit bored watching not Netflix, because let's face it, there's nothing on. But if that's the worst of our troubles, and if anybody knows any good things on Netflix apart from Stranger Things, because I've watched all of them, then do let me know.
And with that, the thing we need to go now. Yeah,
we do.
In an hour. Yeah. I'll leave with a little drop of wisdom. Love does not discriminate. The kind of love we advocate is the love you can have even for someone who has done harm to you. This kind of love is to be extended to all living beings, and it can be extended to all living beings.
That's a wonderful thought.
Yes, that's right. And love is one magical word that can fix everything.
Hello, Piragash. Thank you for joining us this evening. Sorry, we're just about to sort of wrap things up now, because we've been rabbiting away for an hour or more. But if you would like to join us tomorrow, we'll be back at about the same time, a bit earlier than usual.
7 o'clock.
Which is about 7 o'clock. And we will be, again, giving you the benefit of our sort of wisdom or foolishness, whichever way you care to look at it. And and Cal says, castor oil for massage. What rubbish. But thank you for your company. Thank you so much for keeping us kind of sane tonight, and we really look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. A very, very good night to you. Thank you so much.